You can scream and shout with all your might.
Oh, look, it does appear that somebody has sand in their vagina.
Dig in your heels and hold on tight.
Oh, if you were to douche out your vagina, perhaps you would get the sand out of it.
Either you are wrong or I am right.
Hello, I am Eric Cartman. I'd like to introduce my friend Skippy. You are wrong, and Skippy is always right. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that introduction. And yes, many of the people out there do in fact have sand in their vaginas. But here at Stating the Obvious, brought to you by Simple Libertarian Society, we have a cure for the sand in your vagina. We can clean that sand out with a special Stating the Obvious cruise missile. Yes, that explosion will blow all of the sand out of your vagina and shatter the glass house. Oh, glass everywhere. That you live in. Yes. Randy, quick, over there. You see? It's a feminazi with sand in her vagina. Good shot. There you go. Hit her again. Make sure. Remember, always double tap. When killing somebody, always shoot them second time in the head, even though they're down, because you have to make sure they're dead. Never, ever assume. Why? Because assuming makes an ass out of you and an ass out of me. Not that it's possible to make an ass out of me, and not that making an ass out of you is difficult. Why? Because I am always right, and you are always wrong. But then you all knew that already, because this is Stating the Obvious, brought to you by the Cynical Libertarian Society. The webpage is 204eastsouth.com/CLS. The email address is God, that's God as in dog spelled backwards, God at 204eastsouth.com. I am Skippy. In the control room is the lovely and adorable Randy. It is still the 18th of February. I'm on my third pot of coffee for the day. Just watched a couple episodes of Southpark. I'm ready to go. Let's get on to this. This is sweet. So, I've talked about this before, but I'm going to briefly recap for those of you who might be jumping in to the first time. Here in Fort Collins a while back, we had a little battle for the liquor license. We had a bar wanted to move into downtown called the Purple Martini. Purple Martini was opposed by a bunch of self-righteous, anti-capitalist cocksuckers who were afraid that if they got one more bar in downtown Fort Collins, everybody in Fort Collins was going to turn into a lush and a drunk, and the town was going to go to shit. Of course, these people have failed to realize that Fort Collins is already going to shit. I made the prediction many years ago, about 3 or 4, that Fort Collins is turning into a slum, and sure enough it is. And I stand by my prediction. By the year 2010, this place is going to be a shithole with a capital S. Numerous special interest groups got together and, well, no, that's not actually a very accurate statement. It wasn't numerous special interest groups. It was this idiot named Kerry Hewitt. Hewitt? This idiot named Kerry Hewitt who owns the Cupboard, where I will never shop again. And a couple of other friends. Interestingly enough, Kerry Hewitt is the only one who's ever named by name. So we have to assume, which makes an ass out of you and an ass out of me, that there are actually other people besides him involved in this drive to stop the Purple Martini from moving in. Part of his excuse for all of this was the fact that previously to this, a couple of months earlier, a bar opened up conveniently right across the street from his store called the Drunken Monkey. And I'm going to post a picture of the Drunken Monkey on this website when I get around to it. And his premise is that people are going to see the name Drunken Monkey and they are going to become drunk. They are going to become wild. They are going to become out of control. This is, first of all, this is the typical communist, leftist, liberal, progressive response to things. I, Hewitt, don't want another bar in town because I don't think it should be here. Instead of allowing the free market to make that decision, instead of allowing the Purple Martini to open its doors and attempt to thrive and survive or fail, he utilized the power of the government to prevent the business from ever opening in the first place. Now, all of this while, of course, decrying the shitty economic situation here in Fort Collins where you can't get a job. And the government needs all the money it can get in the form of taxes, and let's be honest, bars make a lot of money. Bars also employ people, and I am still drinking coffee. That's what that noise was. As I mentioned, I'm on the third pot of coffee today. Now, this takes place in a larger context. Coffee. The larger context has two facets. The first facet is the business owners downtown would have us believe that there are two separate downtown Fort Collins. There are two characteristically different worlds that occur in this same space. One of these worlds is the downtown Fort Collins of the day, when the stores are open and when the family crowd is down there, when the righteous and wholesome people are down there spending money and generating economic activity. The other downtown Fort Collins is the Fort Collins of the night. The Fort Collins where all the drunk college kids come out, get wasted, look for sex, shit and puke and piss all over the sidewalk. Part of... There are numerous reasons. One reason given for this situation is the concentration of bars in the downtown area. Another reason given is the fact that these bars that these bars offer drink specials. Because you see, giving people a drink special is apparently considered an evil thing. If you have a store that sells cooking utensils, having a sale is perfectly acceptable. But if you own a bar, having a sale apparently leads to evil and terrible things. What people like Hewitt are looking for is to remove the alcohol bar, tavern, college ruckus aspect from the downtown Fort Collins area and leave it as this pure and morally pristine environment in which the family can venture forth and spend their money. Now, of course, note that when you are spending your money in Hewitt's cooking utensil store, that's acceptable. If you wanted to, however, spend your money at the Purple Martini for a martini, this is unacceptable. At one point in all of this process, Hewitt also attempted to persuade the Drunken Monkey to change its name from the Drunken Monkey to something else. And I had read at one point the Drunken Monkey had agreed to do this, but I noticed they haven't changed their name yet. I haven't been there, and I'm not going to go there, and I've also heard the Drunken Monkey is very expensive and has shitty service. That was me drinking water. Now, so the entire goal, and the lamenting that's going on here, is that downtown Fort Collins is becoming a place to drink and booze and act wild, and not a place to shop. So our goal here for downtown Fort Collins, because this is going to be critical as we move along here in a few minutes, the goal, which is being sought by the merchants of downtown Fort Collins who are opposed to the bars moving into downtown Fort Collins, is to make a environment for family shopping where you can come down and park your car for no more than 2 hours, otherwise it gets ticketed. Park your car and walk around and do some shopping and spend some money and, gosh, have a wonderful time. Now, I want you to keep all that in mind as we roll into this next segment. I'm going to do some reading here from an article. This is in the Bullhorn. It's called Shopping for a Lifestyle. Recently, down the interstate a bit, near Loveland, Colorado, they opened a new strip mall, or whatever they call it. Well, what they are called, apparently, what is it? See, I don't go to these places, so I don't know. Apparently it's called is it a lifestyle center? I don't go to anything that's called a lifestyle center. To me, that sounds like a retirement home. I wouldn't go there. I think that's what it's called. But it doesn't matter because it's called the Promenade Shops at Centura. Who fucking cares? Let's cut straight to the bullshit for a minute. It's a bunch of goddamn stores in the same place. Okay? This is what the fuck it is. You can call it a lifestyle center. You can call it the Promenade Shops at Centura. Whatever the fuck you call it. It's a bunch of goddamn stores all around a big parking lot. Okay? God, I fucking needed that drink of coffee. Alright, so it's a bunch of fucking stores. Some interesting information from this article. Let me read this. Today, America devotes more physical space than ever before to the pursuit of its national pastime, shopping. According to the Urban Land Institute, there are now 20 square feet of retail for every person in the United States. That's a little frightening. A lifestyle center. Yes, it is called a lifestyle center. A lifestyle center usually encompasses between 150,000 to 500,000 square feet of space and is designed to imitate a town center. Now, why am I going to talk about this? I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to talk about this. The opening of this lifestyle center caused great anguish here in Fort Collins among the local business owners because they were terrified that people from Fort Collins were going to go down here and, you guessed it, shop. Spend their money. We can't have that, can we? We can't have people spending their money. The local business owners of downtown Fort Collins are very insistent that if you're going to spend your money, you should spend your money here in downtown Fort Collins. Why? Because downtown Fort Collins is a wonderful, wholesome family environment where you can park your car and then walk around to various stores outside and buy overpriced shit that you have no real use for. And they are opposed to this lifestyle center. And why are they opposed to the lifestyle center? They are opposed to it because all it is a big giant mall where you park your car and then walk around outside and spend your money buying expensive shit that you don't really need. Now this brings me to the question. What exactly is the difference between downtown Fort Collins and the Centura Lifestyle Center? Okay, both of them involve parking your car. Although at Centura there's not a 2-hour limit. In both cases, you have to get out of your car and walk around to various stores. In both cases, the stores contain items you don't really need. I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. In downtown Fort Collins, the only useful store down there is Ace Hardware. Everything else is just trinket bullshit. And of course, both of them involve paying large amounts of money for this shit that you'll never need. And it fascinates me that downtown Fort Collins shop owners are so opposed to this Centura thingy when Centura and downtown Fort Collins are exactly the same fucking thing. Let me read a little bit more here. Market factors dictate that the northern Colorado region could support only one lifestyle center. If that center happened to be in Fort Collins, the city would pull in $4.5 million annual sales tax revenue. What's more, Summit Front Range would prevent Fort Collins from leaking $15 million over the next 10 years to the surrounding communities, namely Loveland. A big part of this fight, and a big part of his anguish over this lifestyle center, is that it did not get built. Now, see, when Fort Collins tried to get this thing built here, because as we just mentioned, we're talking about $4.5 million in annual sales tax revenue. In Fort Collins, where 60% of the general fund is sales tax dependent, officials predict the city will hemorrhage $3 million this year thanks to Centura. $3 million thanks to Centura. This is, I think, more than anything else, what the battle is all about. Everybody who is opposed to this place tries to frame this as some sort of lifestyle thing, some sort of, oh, you're taking away from local merchants, oh, you're taking away from the charm of Old Town, oh, Old Town is turning into a drunken monkey. Drunken monkey has become a catchphrase for everything around here. It's really, in the end, all about the money. Who is this? Amanda Miller of the Downtown Business Association says, quote, I feel strongly that another shopping center does not compete with our Old Town area. We have many specialty shops and items that you could not find at Foley's or Big O Sports. Trinkets, specialty items, designer clothing stores, boutiques. The reason you get in your car and drive downtown is the experience. Unquote. She also says, vacant storefronts are not an accurate gauge of downtown viability. Well, I think the empty storefronts in downtown are a gauge of economic viability. But furthermore, she makes this point that, oh, you have so many things you can find in downtown Fort Collins. And she even makes my point. Trinkets, specialty items, which means things that nobody actually wants, and designer clothing stores. Well, yes, boy, can't live without that designer clothing. In addition to the things I've mentioned already, I think another part of this battle is that liberals enjoy being able to shop at some of these stores downtown, the types that have goods and trinkets and baubles from little third world countries. And I've thought about this, and I think this tells us something about liberalism. Let me take you through the steps here. Somewhere, they make this big deal the liberals make this big deal out of the fact that we have stores downtown that sell these handcrafted items by native African craftsmen and such. I think that these upper to middle class, or middle to upper class, I went backwards there, middle to upper class, white, liberal, Democrat, pansy, sand in the vagina fuckheads get a thrill out of buying these little carved pieces of wood from people in Africa because it makes them feel like they're doing something. It makes them feel like they're helping the people in Africa to make a living. And I will submit that's not quite what's going on. I will submit that these white liberal pieces of shit are essentially keeping the people of Africa who make these trinkets in a state of poverty, in a state of producing these trinkets, so that they can feel good about themselves. Why not, if you want to help these people, get them educations, get them technology, get them infrastructures, get them the ability to grow crops, to feed their families, to make their country as a whole better, get them some roads, get them some gas stations, get them some electrical power plants. No, instead, we'll allow the black people to live on the edge of life, carving little pieces of wood and selling them to rich white Americans for $10. Why? So that we rich white Americans can vote Democrat and feel good about ourselves. So remember, shopping at a lifestyle center is no more evil than shopping in downtown Fort Collins at the trinket stores. Because yes, it's true, the shirts that are sold at Foley's are probably made by sweatshop laborers in China. But the trinkets sold at the Old Town Fort Collins stores are made by starving African people. Alright? There's not really any moral difference here. There's not any economic difference here. The only real difference here is that, in this particular case, the tax money from the Lifestyle Center doesn't go to Fort Collins, which I suspect is a major problem. And the second difference is that at the Lifestyle Center, there's not a 2-hour parking limit. And while we're talking about economics, I want to go back and talk about this. Even though I talked about this a couple of episodes ago, I want to go back and talk about it again because I don't feel like I did it justice. This is an interview with John Dicker. His name is Dicker, who wrote The United States of Walmart. He said some interesting things that completely illustrate why liberals do not understand business. Which completely illustrate why liberals don't understand that people want to go to a lifestyle center instead of downtown Fort Collins. Why liberals don't understand that you should let bars open and fail on their own accord, not block their liquor license. Why liberals don't understand that college kids don't want stores where they can buy trinkets that are handmade in Africa and designer clothing. College students want bars where they can go and get drunk because they're stupid and they're college students. That's first of all, John Dicker points out this is incredibly evil. He points out that Walmart charges its below the poverty line employees for health insurance. Now, can you imagine that? Actually charging people for health insurance. I mean, how hideous is that? What is... So, because somebody's below the poverty line, they should get shit for free? No, I don't think so. Rocky Mountain Bullhorn asked the question, so Walmart, not exactly Mother Teresa of corporations, yeah. And John Dicker says, exactly. No, they're not. And Rocky Mountain Bullhorn says, were you shocked to find out they're non-profit? And John Dicker says, no. I think anyone who even occasionally glances at the headlines would know that they're not a charity organization in the way they present themselves to their PSAs. Now, you fucking liberals out... Did you... This boggles my mind. See, this is like when the journalist bitch wrote the column where she said she discovered that the search for life on Mars wasn't actually a search for an alien civilization, but a search for the remnants of microbes that might have lived a long time ago. I mean, this is a journalist with a college education who actually thought there were people on Mars. And here again, we have journalists who actually at some point apparently thought that Walmart was a non-profit organization. Do you people not understand? Wait, you don't? What? Well, it's true, they don't. It's the whole point. They don't understand capitalism. Here's a news flash for you people out there. Walmart is not a non-profit organization. If you are under the I can't talk. If you are operating under the illusion that Walmart is a non-profit organization, then welcome to reality. Rocky Mountain Bullhorn says, you do an excellent job in the book of showing that while the cost of panties may be very low for the shopper, Walmart passes on a certain cost to taxpayers. Dicker replies, they also pass their social responsibilities on to the consumers. Now, I'm not sure what social responsibilities you liberals think a company is supposed to have. But it always fascinates me how liberals are always so concerned about social responsibilities. But you'll notice they themselves have none. For example, let me be like a broken record here. I know that you've all heard me say this 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. Homeless people. If every fucking liberal who claimed to care about homeless people took a homeless person home with them, there'd be no homeless people. But does any fucking liberal lift a finger? No. Now, they raise awareness. They sleep on the street at night. They go to fundraisers. But will they actually sully their precious little fingers by actually reaching out to and helping a homeless person? No, they will not. What about that social responsibility? Later on, John Dicker says, one of the examples I use in the book is the Atlanta suburbs. There are two Walmarts about 10 miles away from each other. One is predominantly African American, and one is predominantly white. You know there'll be black Barbie dolls in one store and Garth Brooks in the other. Now, you have two stores run by the same company. The stores are located in different neighborhoods with different demographics. And so the store stocks the two individual stores with different materials based on the demographics of the surrounding population. In other words, let me rephrase this. The stores stock items the consumers close to them might actually want to buy. To John Dicker, a liberal Democrat socialist pinko sand in the vagina fuckhead, this is a bad thing. This is evil. This is racist. This is what is wrong with you fucking liberals. Liberals are people who think giving consumers what they want is bad. Excuse me. The throat lozenge I took earlier helped, but not enough. Listen to me, people. Liberals are people who believe giving the consumers what they want to buy is bad. And this is exactly why people like Hewitt oppose another bar downtown. Because nobody wants to go to his fucking store and buy overpriced frying pans. Downtown Fort Collins is right near CSU, and CSU is populated by college students, and college students, especially since they're not... College students, especially since they're no longer allowed to drink in their fraternity houses, have to go someplace else to get drunk. And the place you typically go to get drunk is a bar. What does the consumer want? The consumer wants more bars. Should we give the consumer more bars? No! Not according to liberal ideology. If you give people what they actually want to spend their money on, you are a bad person. In the case of Walmart, you are racist. Because actually putting, I don't know, what was the example? Garth Brooks dolls in one store and black Barbie dolls in the other store is racist. These people do not understand it. Finally, one more. Rocky Mountain Bullhorn asks the question, many hate Walmart, but it seems Walmart is just very successful at operating within the system all U.S. businesses operate under, free market capitalism. If you hate Walmart, you must then be critical of free market capitalism and globalization. John Dicker replies, if you're critical of capitalism, it doesn't necessarily mean you hate it. The idea that we have a purely free market is a fallacy. Look at the perks Walmart gets from the state in terms of infrastructure cost, in terms of highways. They couldn't operate without highways. Walmart is a taxpayer, but it's one of many. The idea that the market is totally free is a total The idea that the market is totally free is a total ideology victory of the conservative movement in the last generation or so. I always find it interesting that people who are insisting that 8 15-hour jobs are good and the flight of the middle-class manufacturing jobs is good for everyone are always people who make $200,000 a year or more. Now, I agree with him in that we don't have a totally free market, and I agree with him that Walmart gets lots of perks to move in, such as tax breaks and all this other stuff. Of course, remember, in order for a corporation like Walmart to get a tax break, the tax break must be granted by the government. And the government, because liberals, remember, believe that we live in a democracy, even though we don't, the government is elected by the people. And here in Fort Collins, the government, of course, is the government is typically, those two words rhyme, that's why I got confused. The government is typically of a liberal orientation. So if liberals care so much about these poor people making $8.50 an hour and don't want to give these advantages to Walmart, why do they always give companies like Walmart tax breaks? Let's move along. Recycling. I mentioned a while back that I discovered the Penn and Teller bullshit show and how much I loved it. They did a great episode on recycling. Interestingly enough, the socialist... Who is this guy? Is he an editor? He's an assistant editor, Josh Johnson at the Bullhorn, recently discovered that recycling is a farce. Recently discovered that recycling doesn't work. It's great that this information is starting to get out there. The only recycling that actually saves anything is recycling aluminum cans. All this other stuff is a load of horse shit. What is this? Ooh, do I want to? Let me see. I might want to save that. Is this about the pit bulls? This is. Right. This is... Oh, these are two examples of the stupidity of the average American. The man on the street type interviews, or in this case, woman on the street type interviews. The Bullhorn asks the question, do you think the federal government is doing a good job of getting aid to the survivors of Hurricane Katrina along the Gulf Coast? Why or why not? And Ashley Hurley from Fort Collins, oh my god, my name's Ashley, totally, says, quote, since our commander-in-chief went golfing on Tuesday after the hurricane struck, I'd have to say no. They don't seem to be making it a priority, unquote. As if George Bush didn't go golfing, see, then it would be more of a priority. And this is the babysitter mentality that liberals have. As what possible function could George Bush be playing in getting aid to New Orleans? I mean, let's say you work for the federal government and somebody comes to you and says, hey, there's a hurricane down in New Orleans, because you didn't notice that, because nobody knew about it, it just totally just magically appeared. Nobody had any warning. This hurricane hit New Orleans, and now we've got to get this food down there so people don't starve. Okay, why do you need George Bush standing there next to you to get the food to New Orleans? I mean, if George Bush going golfing actually shuts down the entire government, aren't we up shit creek? And you liberals out there who try to blame everything on George Bush, yes, George Bush is a fucking idiot, okay? We're not debating that. What we're debating is, how is it that George Bush can be a fucking idiot and yet be so responsible for everything that happens? Why, if George Bush goes golfing, the entire government shuts down and we can't provide food and medical aid for people in New Orleans. So, like, if George Bush was there, what is George Bush going to do? It's just like 9/11. George Bush should have left that classroom and taken charge. And do what? George Bush is a fucking moron. What's he going to do? What, he's Superman? Dominique Quintera of Loveland writes a letter, and it doesn't matter what the letter is. I only need to read this one sentence. She writes, Germany and Japan were directly attacking our allies and directly threatened our freedom. Iraq was not. This was her excuse as to why going into World War II is right and going into Iraq is wrong. Dominique, I have news for you. The countries Germany and Japan were attacking were not our allies until we went to war with them against Germany and Japan. But it's okay. You're a liberal. You're a Democrat. It's not like you know anything about history. Which reminds me of an interesting point I haven't made lately. Hold on just a second. Okay, I'm back. You know, I've noticed an interesting difference between liberal Democrats and conservative Republicans. Conservative Republicans know history fairly well. They know nothing about what happened in the last 2 weeks. Liberal Democrats, on the other hand, they can tell you everything that happened in the last 2 weeks, but when you bring up things like it was a liberal president, FDR, that put a bunch of Japanese people in concentration camps, they don't know anything about that. I always find that little juxtaposition quite interesting. What do I got here? Oh, political correctness. Here's a great example of political correctness. This is written by Alfred P. Reed from Fort Collins. Somebody wrote an article in the Bullhorn a while back here, and they made a reference to white, black, brown, or yellow people in some PCism way. Anyhow, this person writes in and says, there are actually no white, black, brown, or yellow people, and I wish the authors of news articles would refrain from the use of these incorrect designations. There are Caucasian, Negro, Indigenous, Hispanic, Oriental people, etc. So you see, if you categorize people as white, black, brown, or yellow, that's bad. But when you categorize people as Caucasian, Negro, Indigenous, Hispanic, and Oriental, that's perfectly okay. This, of course, coming from the politically correct crowd, which tells us that it is wrong to categorize people according to their skin color. They say this, of course, right after handing you the affirmative action worksheet. Yeah, this fits in good with the Walmart thing, and I should have covered it then, and I didn't. This is a wham article from somebody named Carla Conradery. The important thing here is this sentence. Until large corporations are held responsible to all of their employees by offering health insurance and livable wages, they will hire the lowest wage workers. Now, for those of you who are liberals, for those of you who think that Walmart is a non-profit organization, and for those of you who think that poor people shouldn't have to pay for their own health insurance, and for those of you who are shocked, outraged, I am outraged by it, as was Molly Yard of the National Organization of Women, for those of you who are outraged to find out that Walmart actually offers products that the people who live nearby might want to buy, here is another shocking piece of information for you. That businesses hire the lowest wage workers. For those of you out there who don't understand capitalism, is this really shocking to you? And more to the point, if you people, do you people who are liberals and own businesses, which to me just boggles the mind anyhow, and this just shows the hypocrisy and the double standards you people have, that you're all about socializing everything and you're all about all this other shit, but then you go and you open a business and try to make a profit. For those of you who are liberals and own a business, do you actually pay people more than you have to pay them? Because if you do, I want a job with you. Except, of course, that I'm a white man. And therefore, probably not entitled. Unleashed. I am feeling slightly unleashed. Here in Fort Collins, we have a leash law for dogs. Not for children yet. Although we should have a leash law for children. We have a leash law for dogs. And this is a article in a Rose Cave. Oh, God. Shane Tarablo, Tarraralbo. Shane, we'll call him Shane. Shane is a Fort Collins resident and a volunteer at the Cave Info Shop. For those of you who don't know what a Cave Info Shop is, they are libraries. They're privately owned libraries which have only liberal books in them. They try to build themselves as some sort of free flow of information, but they are essentially liberal Democrat libraries which are privately owned and operated. Here we see it again, liberals engaging in private ownership and operation, which sort of goes against their grain. Anyhow, Shane writes a column here, and I'm going to read a bit from this. We have a leash law for dogs in Fort Collins, and a lot of people don't like the leash law for dogs. I personally do. I don't want your filthy little animal running around and getting close to me. Alright, let me just read. I am writing this in regards to the Gone to the Dogs article in the September 1st issue of the Bullhorn, and two items that were left out of the piece. I want to briefly relate my experiences with getting tickets. I have been walking dogs in this town for 8 years. Oh, excuse me. I have been walking dogs in this town for 8 years. My dogs are on voice command. They have never been involved in any type of fight with humans or dogs. They are both very sweet and bring smiles to the faces of almost all the people they come in contact with, especially children. Both of the dogs I have now are dogs rescued from abuse and neglect. I did not choose to be these dogs' guardians on some whim or because I thought they were cute, or that I thought I wanted a dog for some selfish reason. I adopted these 2 dogs because my heart told me to. They needed a secure and loving home, and I knew I could give them this. Caring for dogs is not an easy thing. It's a huge commitment. I had to compromise a lot, and know that probably the next 20 years of my life will be devoted and revolve around them. Both of my dogs are Border Collie mixes. They are incredibly intelligent and have a lot of energy that needs to be exhausted on a daily basis, hence 3 walks a day at least. I received 4 tickets for walking my dogs unleashed. I will not keep my dogs bound on leash constantly. To do that would mean for me to abuse my dogs by not letting them run and get out their energy, making me and them miserable. I will not tolerate being punished for doing what my conscience tells me to do. First of all, the leash law was put into place by the government. The government that you elected, and the government that is primarily composed of liberals. Second of all, none of this information, I don't care about your heart, it doesn't matter how smart your dogs are, the fact they've never been in an altercation, the fact that they're cute, the fact that they make people smile, none of this gives you permission to break the law. Finally, you say you will not be punished for doing what your conscience tells me to do. Okay. He says he will not tolerate being punished for doing what his conscience tells him to do. I'm going to try that. Your Honor, I will not tolerate being punished for what my conscience tells me to do, and my conscience told me to rape that woman. Your Honor, I will not tolerate being punished for what my conscience told me to do. My conscience told me to take pictures of these 8-year-old boys naked and post them on the internet. Now, this is the problem with you fucking liberals. You liberals think that the law is for other people, not for you. Because, see, you're exempted from the law. Because your dogs are on voice command. Yeah, and because your dogs are so smart. It sounds like a woman, and women go, oh, my cat is so much more important than other cats. My dogs are smarter than other dogs. No, they're not. They're dogs. They're stupid, filthy dogs. They're animals that are too dumb to shit without being taken outside so they can shit. But for those of you who don't know, I don't really like dogs. I love cats. Cats! A cat has to shit. A cat goes to the cat box, digs a hole, shits in it, covers it up. Easy. What does a dog do? A dog shits in the middle of the floor and drools all over the place and smells bad, just like a fucking hippie. I think that's why I like cats, because cats are like women's. Cats are like women. They're pretty, they're nice to pet, they're intelligent, they're quiet, they smell good. Dogs are like hippies. They drool, they shit, they piss, they smell bad, they just lay around and do nothing useful. Dogs, hippies. I love it. God, I hate hippies. But, you people, you liberal, you're not exempted from the law because your dogs are special. The leash law is not for other people's dogs. The leash law is for your filthy animals. Furthermore, he makes the mention over here that that if he did not allow his dogs, if he kept his dogs bound on leash constantly, he would be abusing his dogs by not letting them run and get out their energy. Now, according to some people, such as PETA, even having animals as pets is abusing them. So how do you reconcile that? Are you not a PETA wacko? Furthermore, who are you people who own dogs? Who are these people who own dogs? I've talked about this before, haven't I? How people who own dogs are needy, whiny, little snivelly pieces of shit. I have talked about that, haven't I? For those of you in Fort Collins, the Cave Info Shop is at 908 LaPorte Avenue. As I said, it's a privately owned and operated library. which has just a bunch of communists. I should email this guy. Randy, I have a sweet idea. Ooh, yeah. I think I'm going to do that. Alright, I can't let the cat out of the bag, nor can I let the dog off the leash by telling you, people out there, the idea I just had, but it's sweet. Alright, I'm on crack. I know it. Alright. Left of the dial. Let me zap through this article real quick. This is about some... What's this guy's name? Jay Marvin. He's on AM 760 here in the somewhere in Fort Collins area. I don't know exactly. Anyway, it's a liberal radio station, and oh my God, progressive. I keep forgetting they call themselves progressives. Now, so funny. Oh, Jay Marvin, the. You know what kills me about liberals? This is referenced here. I'm not going to read it. There are liberals out there who actually want Al Gore to run for president again. I mean, Al Gore lost to George. Yes, he did. He lost. I know some of you out there are getting pissed off. No, he lost. Okay, George W. got more electoral votes than Al Gore. That means Al Gore lost. Now, it doesn't mean GW is a good president. I'm not saying that. But goddamn, you people are stupid. You lost the fucking election. You lost 2 elections. As in lost. As in loser. As in loser. As in loser. Okay? You lost. Al Gore lost an election. Not only did he lose an election, but he lost to George. The only thing more humiliating is John Kerry. Because John Kerry lost to George Bush after America had 4 years to figure out George Bush is an incompetent, inarticulate monkey boy. John Kerry should kill himself. If he had any fucking honor, he would kill himself for that humiliating part of his life. I mean, to lose... I mean, it's one thing for Al Gore lost to George Bush when nobody really knew anything about George Bush. Okay? You can kind of look at that and go, yeah, okay, that's all right, yeah. Kerry lost after America had 4 years to see how stupid George Bush is. That's sad. And there are liberals out there who still want this man to run for president. Air America, for those of you who don't know, Air America is the I wouldn't say it's a network. What would you call it? I don't know what to call it, Randy. But Air America is sort of the equivalent of the EIB, Excellence in Broadcasting, which does Rush Limbaugh's show. Air America is led by Al Franken. They're on 87 stations nationwide. 87. Can you imagine that? Wow, that's incredible. Jay Marvin is a local radio talk show host who is a progressive. For those of you who don't know, a progressive is somebody who's too stupid to know they're a liberal. And he says in here that Marvin hasn't had a drink or a toke in years. That's great. You know, he used to be a drunk, broke, out-of-control disc jockey. Wow. The day that they came to do this article and interview with him, he's doing his show, and there's nobody calling in. It's interesting. They say, well, it's unusual to lack callers for so long, and he's almost embarrassed. I bet he doesn't have a problem. I bet he has a lot of experience not having callers. Jay says, the 760 listener is incredibly well-read and incredibly bright. I don't think you can be well-read and bright and be a progressive. No, I'm laughing when I'm reading. I'm always in and out of therapy. Well, that's why you're a progressive. The search. I remember when the search started for the left-wing liberal Democrat answer to Rush Limbaugh. And this is one of those things. I definitely don't agree with Limbaugh on a lot of things, but you know, at least his show is something you can listen to. I need to tune into this little Jay guy sometime and give him a listen. Yeah, like that's going to happen. I I have time to listen to more liberal whining. I made it through the stack. How are we on time? 50 minutes? Oh, well, we're about out anyhow, aren't we? Let's see. What could I do for the rest of the show? No, you don't have to play the music early. Let's see. I could sing 99 bottles of beer on the wall. 99 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 98 bottles of beer on the wall. Alright, I'm just kidding. That there's a whole lot of people out there that were hitting the stop button on their media players. We got plenty more coming up. That was me bending over. It was rough. For me, for Randy and I, what's coming up is a little more Southpark. Yeah, we'll go watch a couple episodes. It's cold outside. Baby, it's cold outside. Excuse me. We need to work on setting up the advertisements too. Now that we have the new opening theme, the new additions to the opening theme, and the new sound effects, we need to work on getting the commercials online. I still owe you people a couple of editions of Stating the Obvious that I've promised you. I've got a lot of stuff to cover. I've got a piece coming up I want to do about homosexual marriage and why I'm opposed to homosexual marriage, or at least why I'm opposed to granting marriage license to homosexuals, and why I'm opposed to granting marriage licenses to anybody. And that'll all be put into context when the time comes, because I know a lot of you out there are thinking, alright, he's homophobic. He's opposed to gay marriage. Well, I didn't say that. I'm opposed to marriage license, which is a difference that most of you out there aren't smart enough to comprehend, but that's why I'm here to explain these things to you, to guide you through the dark and troubling times, to try to enlighten you, even though I know it's going to totally fail because you people are so fucking stupid you can't pour piss out of a boot with the instructions written on bottom. That's why you continue to vote for either the Republican or the Democrat candidate, because you're dumb.